Imagine the arrival of dusk. The sky outside your window slowly loses its vibrant color, dissolving into a quiet amber glow while a profound stillness settles over your home. Your eyes drift toward your telephone, resting silently on the counter. There are no missed notifications, nor are there any unexpected messages waiting for you. You realize a considerable amount of time has slipped away since you last spoke with those you love. Weeks have stretched into months, and the absence has become heavier than you care to acknowledge. In the quiet of your mind, a nagging doubt starts to take root, making you wonder if you committed some unspoken error or if you managed to provoke their anger. It feels as though they have simply moved forward, much like a current that effortlessly flows away from the bank it used to touch so intimately. If these thoughts echo your current reality, please understand that you are not isolated in experiencing this profound sense of detachment. Many elders, parents, and grandparents carry this exact unspoken sorrow. They experience the gradual estrangement of children who have drifted away, not because of a sudden dispute, but due to the natural momentum of building their own lives, tending to new families, and navigating the physical distances that seem to expand with each passing year. Today's reflection is meant to offer more than just a listening ear or brief reassurance. It is an invitation to explore 5 meaningful, actionable practices you can embrace immediately. These steps are not designed to manipulate or pull your adult children back to you, but rather to unburden your own mind from the exhausting state of perpetual anticipation. Let us explore this path together, moving forward with patience and focusing on one steady breath at a time. Before we focus on how to shift our perspective, we must first allow ourselves to acknowledge the raw emotion of this experience, because an ache that we try to bypass or bury never truly fades. It simply retreats into the background, waiting to resurface in the lonely hours of the early morning. It is completely natural to feel wounded or overlooked, and those feelings deserve your gentle attention rather than your judgment. You invested your life into raising your child, sitting by their bedside through illnesses, celebrating their milestones, and perhaps putting your own desires aside so they could flourish. When the line goes quiet, the sting of that emptiness is an entirely human reaction. There was an elderly woman who lived in a quiet village who always insisted on keeping her phone plugged in right at the center of her kitchen table, maintaining a constant vigil just in case a call arrived. She shared that the true difficulty was not the lack of company, but the persistent, distressing question that accompanied the silence. What did I do wrong as a parent? That is the exact question we need to gently lay down. More often than not, the reality has nothing to do with a failure on your part. Adult children grow distant due to a myriad of modern pressures, internal stresses, and the overwhelming pace of their own daily obligations. This situation is not a reflection of your value. It is merely the unfolding of life's unpredictable patterns. Allowing yourself to feel this grief without criticizing yourself for having the feeling is your very first gesture of self-care. Let us now examine why this happens and explore the 5 steps that can guide you from this heavy heart toward an enduring internal stillness. Within ancient spiritual traditions, a foundational truth explains the mechanics of our internal distress. Our pain does not stem from external events themselves, but from the mismatch between our mental expectations and the reality before us. When we care deeply for others, we naturally form internal scripts about how they should behave, believing they will reach out on certain days, visit during traditional gatherings, or call out of simple affection. Because these hopes feel entirely reasonable and earned, we rarely notice that we have tethered our personal happiness to them. Consequently, when life deviates from our script even slightly, our spirits sink. This does not mean your affection is flawed or that desiring closeness is a mistake. It simply highlights that a stable, lasting sense of peace cannot be constructed on the unpredictable choices of another human being, which remain the one thing in this vast world completely outside your control. Another comforting perspective comes from understanding the law of impermanence, which reminds us that every relationship changes its course over time, much like a shifting riverbed. The unique bond you experienced when your child was small was genuine, yet it naturally transformed as the years advanced. The current state of your connection, even with its present distance, is also a temporary reality that will continue to evolve. Nothing in this world remains completely static, including the absence of communication. Therefore, our objective is not to try and force the river to flow backward, but to find a sense of equilibrium right where we stand on the shore. These 5 insights are designed to help you discover that balance. The initial practice is perhaps the most gentle. Begin directing unconditional wishes of well being and loving kindness toward your children, completely separating your well wishes from whether they choose to reach out, visit, or acknowledge you. You can experiment with this right now. If it feels right, allow your eyes to close softly. Breathe in deeply and let the air out slowly. Bring to mind the image of your child, viewing them exactly as they exist in this moment, navigating their own complicated and demanding world rather than how you wish they would behave. Silently wish for them to be secure, to be peaceful, and to be protected from the struggles that you might not even know about. It is vital to recognize that this internal offering requires no response or awareness from your child to be effective. The healing property of this exercise is entirely for your own spirit. Every time you cultivate this pure wish without demanding a return on your investment, you train your mind to love in a way that is no longer dependent on validation. This represents a profound spiritual maturity, the ability to hold someone dearly while letting go of the need to possess their attention. Many who practice this notice that their lingering resentment softens first, followed by the fading of sorrow, leaving behind a love that is light, unburdened, and no longer tethered to a silent phone. The second shift requires great courage, but yields immense freedom. Learning to untangle your affection for your children from your specific demands of them. Genuine care simply wishes for another's welfare, whereas an expectation places a rigid demand on how and when that care must be proven. One is given freely, while the other functions like an unwritten contract the other person never agreed to sign. To practice this, consider taking a moment tonight to write down the unstated rules you are holding on to, such as how often they should check in or how deeply they should understand your current state of isolation. Next to each point, write a softer statement of release, acknowledging that while you would welcome their presence, you choose to release the demand in order to keep your own spirit whole. This is not an act of surrender or giving up on your family. It is simply dropping the unspoken conditions that cause you hidden suffering when they go unmet. Think of a resilient tree during a gale. The limbs that flex with the wind remain intact, while the rigid ones snap under the pressure. Yielding in this way does not mean you stop loving. It means you refuse to let your peace depend entirely on someone else's behavior. There is an old story about a caretaker who planted a sapling near his porch, imagining how its future canopy would provide perfect shade over his favorite evening seat. However, the tree naturally stretched out toward the open sunlight, leaning completely away from the house. The caretaker faced a distinct choice. He could live in bitter resentment because the tree did not grow according to his design, or he could simply adjust the position of his chair to appreciate the tree's beauty from a fresh perspective. Your adult children are much like that tree, growing toward the light of their own careers, partnerships, and responsibilities. Loving them completely sometimes means rearranging your own seat rather than demanding that they change their natural growth. The third step calls for active engagement. Begin cultivating a network of companionship that is independent of your immediate family. Modern life often narrows our definition of close relationships to include only blood relatives. In older traditions, however, the concept of community was much broader, encompassing neighbors who watched out for one another, elders who met in common spaces daily, and deep friendships that functioned as chosen family. Try taking one intentional step in this direction over the coming days. You might reach out to an acquaintance from your past, visit a local community center, join a neighborhood gathering, or spend time in a communal garden. The weight of isolation diminishes not by waiting for a single individual to alleviate it, but by opening our lives to a broader circle of mutual warmth. This practice never diminishes the love you hold for your children. It merely ensures your heart is not relying on a single lifeline for its emotional sustenance, as no single person was ever meant to carry the entire responsibility for our inner well-being. Consider the experience of a gentleman who found himself living in total silence after the loss of his partner, his only relative living far away and calling only occasionally. For a long time, he remained isolated within his home. Eventually, he made the decision to join a local group that gathered for regular walks in the park. Within a short period, he found himself surrounded by companions who greeted him by name, took an interest in his life, and looked out for him. He later reflected that while his relatives' calling habits had not changed, he no longer felt the biting chill of isolation. That is the quiet grace of expanding your community. The fourth practice encourages you to discover small opportunities to offer your time and presence to those around you. Spiritual wisdom teaches that acts of kindness generate a beautiful energy, much like using one candle to light another. The initial flame remains undiminished while the room grows significantly brighter. When you direct your attention and energy toward the welfare of another, a wonderful shift occurs within you. The painful sensation of being unneeded starts to fade away. This outreach does not have to be an immense undertaking. It could mean offering a few hours at a neighborhood charity, sharing a lifetime of experience, whether in cooking, crafts, or language, with a younger person eager to learn, or simply caring for a pet or a garden that relies on your daily attention. Having a sense of purpose serves as a wonderful antidote to loneliness, countering the negative thought that your usefulness has passed by providing immediate, tangible evidence to the contrary. Think of a retired instructor who felt deeply disconnected from her own grown family. She decided to volunteer to read stories to children at a local library. Within a year, those young listeners who shared no family ties with her began embracing her as a grandmother figure. Her life was transformed not because her biological children suddenly altered their communication habits, but because she chose to invest her capacity to care in a space where it was thoroughly appreciated and welcomed. The fifth and final insight is perhaps the most profound. Try to reframe your quiet hours not as an experience of neglect, but as an open invitation to deepen your inner life. There is a vast distinction between feeling lonely and embracing solitude. Loneliness represents the pain of feeling separated, while solitude is the joy of being thoroughly comfortable within your own skin. The external environment remains identical. The difference lies entirely in how you relate to the silence. Try dedicating just a few minutes each morning to sitting quietly, observing the natural flow of your breath. Tune in to the subtle blessings that exist in your immediate surroundings, the pleasant warmth of light entering the room, the comfort of a warm beverage, or the simple miracle of your steady heartbeat. This cultivation of thankfulness shifts your gaze from what is absent to the abundance that is already present. Throughout history, many individuals seeking wisdom have stepped into a life of quiet reflection during their later years, not out of rejection, but because they recognize that this season of life offers a unique opportunity for introspection, understanding, and inner peace. You are standing at that very same gateway. The stillness of your home can become the very path to your most peaceful chapter, provided you meet it with an open and receptive mind. Let us bring these 5 principles together into a single, cohesive view. Begin by extending unconditional well wishes to your children without demanding a return. Next, dismantle the unspoken requirements that bring you sorrow while preserving your underlying affection. Third, expand your social world to include neighbors, friends, and community groups. Fourth, anchor yourself in a sense of purpose by being helpful to others in small ways. Finally, look inward, turning quiet moments into a beautiful opportunity for personal reflection. As we conclude our reflection, remember this above all else. The silence from your family is not a sign that you have failed, nor is it the true definition of their regard for you. The demands of daily life can consume time in ways that have nothing to do with a lack of affection, and physical separation happens without any loss of true caring. You are fully permitted to feel the sorrow of missing them, while simultaneously giving yourself permission to construct a meaningful, vibrant life that does not depend on waiting for the phone to ring. May you experience deep serenity today and in all the days ahead. May your spirit find comfort within the quiet, and may you move forward not in a state of suspended animation, but in a state of active, gentle grace. If these words brought a sense of comfort to your day, sharing this reflection with others is a beautiful way to keep this supportive environment growing, so we can continue to look out for one another. If you have walked through these exact struggles, sharing your insights can be a profound way to remind someone else that they are not navigating this darkness alone. And if you know someone who is spending their evening in the company of a silent telephone, consider extending these thoughts to them as a quiet comfort. Until our paths cross again, may you remain safe, may you find happiness, and may your mind be completely at peace.